We're live.
How long does it take normally till it starts?
8 people are on now. What? That didn't take long. Yeah, give us a second. Okay, so hello, ladies and gentlemen of Vanderbilt, and welcome to Terrier Talk. This is episode 14, and I am joined today by 2 great baseball players, my guests, Brennan Handler and Jonathan Jensen. Thank you. So, baseball has had a very eventful year this year. Baseball has a very interesting and successful year this year. So, just generally, let's talk about it. What's happened this year? That's so great. What's led to this success?
We started off pretty rough in the beginning of the season. We were like 1-5, 1-6, and we came back. Our record right now is 17-8. Had a couple of huge wins against Dunham. West Feliciano was pretty good, and De La Salle especially. All really good teams.
Is there anything like specific that happened at those games that was like so? I guess that was the table turning from before to now.
Remember the West Feliciano game? That was a good game. Whenever it was just back and forth, and then Gavin hitting the 3-run homer to bring it back into the game, and then in the very last inning, this kid right here hit a
walk-off double.
Nice. A lot of contribution there during that game from, of course, both these guys. And one thing I want to go ahead and get this chat set up correctly. Bryce says hello to you, Brennan.
What's up, Bryce?
Cool. Yeah. And now I have it set up just in case anyone talks. We'll be making sure to see it. So I guess one thing that's important, I talked about how successful the season has been. And it didn't start like that. You mentioned it. Started off very rocky. Started off winless for the first, I think, couple of weeks. Finally got back into the mojo in a couple of tournaments, if I recall correctly. And it's, is it 12 of 13? 11 of 12 of the last games?
Something like that.
And the team's on fire now. Vast improvement. Has there been any like one factor that's shown that like contributed to that big improvement from the beginning of the season to now?
I definitely say the camaraderie between all of us together. Coming together in the beginning, it was probably a little slower. And now it's like we all like each other.
And I'd have to say the pitching. Pitching's coming along really good.
Yeah, and I know you've been a very large part of that. Had a great game against St. John earlier this week. I want to talk about those the recent games in a little bit, but this one specifically, you had a complete shutout game against St. John, and you're going to be a nominee for Coach Hawthorne's a good coach, Matthew Mann says. Think about that?
Sure.
He sure is. Awesome. Great for him. So, had a great game against St. John. You're going to be nominated for Barker Honda Player of the Week. I guess a quick advertisement. Go vote for him. Of course, hope you can win that. And great game there. Now, I guess this will tie in a little bit with the review for this week. This last week, and 4 wins, right? Or 3 wins? 4 wins.
They're 4 right now. Finished.
This is 15-1 against Elder.
Yeah.
8-5 against Rummel. 12-0. That big game against St. John.
1-0.
1-0.
That was a 1-0 game.
I had a typo. I apologize. Right. I remember that now. Yeah, it was a 1-0 game. It was a great. Actually, okay. So wait a second. It was a 1-0 game. What happened? There was was there an RBI late on? Like what happened?
It was an early RBI. But, it was Hunter got on, and then Evan hit him in. That was probably the
first or second inning, something like that. Okay, that's very interesting. I want to know, was there any pressure you were thinking about going into those 6th and 7th innings, thinking about trying to hold that one run? That great performance.
I mean, once I got to the 6th inning, I was like, I just want to finish this.
Yeah.
So then when I got to the 7th, I had all pressure on me. I mean, I just had to get through it.
And almost more confidence because this is just my thought when thinking about that. Is it almost like, you can beat them. You've done it inning after inning after inning. And it's just line them up and you knocked them down. And that was a great performance, 1-0 against St. John. Very tough team, very tough defense, of course. Hold you guys to 1 run. But the victory is the victory. And it was a great one. And then, of course, the 12-5 victory at Assumption. You guys are going to finish that series next week. And it should be, my guess is, pretty solid, pretty simple win. Just keep rolling. So a win streak. Well, not a win streak, but 11 of 12 victories. going into the next last few games. So let's talk about those a little bit, because there's one specifically, I guess a little bit of, not a spoiler, but a forthcoming into next week. This will be the main event of next week, the Holy War, baseball. Vanderbilt will take on E.D. White. Now, the two hottest teams in South Louisiana right now, I think, period. 11 of 12 wins versus the undefeated Bayou Redbirds, the Cardinals. And is there anything specific you know about that game? Andrea Hamner, hello, brother, she says.
Hey, sister.
So, anything about that game, I guess you want to talk about now while we have the chance?
What game was it again? E.D. White?
The E.D. White game, yes.
I think it'll be a tough matchup, but I think if we work hard and get through it, I think it'll be a big game.
Mm-hmm. When a team is 22-0, there's no way it's an easy matchup. There's no way it's. I think it's something I've said a lot of times on this show. It's tough, but it'll be winnable. St. John, De La Salle, West Feliciana, whoever it's been, we've gone up, pulled them up, we knock them down. A win streak. And it's with all this momentum, hopefully, obviously, with wins against Assumption, against Dakar, against Morgan City in that series, going to E.D. White, 2 games, and let's go win one, right? It's a big game. And I'll talk about that more, of course, next week. And yes, it will be the main event. So, a couple of last things. One, is there anything big outside of what we've talked about so far that you want to remark to outside of the baseball world that's important to talk about?
That's what you mean by that.
Excuse me, I didn't word that very well. I apologize. So, what I mean is, it's kind of, and this is something I've noticed when talking about track versus, I think a good example of this is, I think as a spectator, it's interesting to hear sort of the insider terms in baseball. We talked about the kick and the drafting and kicking last week with Kate Casio and running. And obviously you guys have your insider terms, and some of them are more universal in baseball than, say, in long-distance running. Ben says, "Hey, Dad." I don't know what that was addressing. But hello, whoever you were addressing.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben. And is there anything like that that you maybe want to discuss, that you want to bring forth a little bit more?
Still confused my question. Like, so you mean like other sports?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, we discussed, like, there's some things that are just natural to an athlete in sport when you're talking about that sport. Like, for example, in track, with Kate Casio last week, we talked about it, and she discussed kicking and that last push, those last 100, 200 meters to win the race. To her, that was just natural, the kick. To me, I hadn't heard that term before, so I wanted her to explain it, and I thought her imparting that knowledge on to the masses, to the spectators. Hope you guys win your next few games. I hope you guys do too, for Matthew.
Thank you.
Yes. And I thought her imparting that knowledge was really good to talk about. So is there anything like that that maybe can help a spectator's knowledge of baseball?
I mean, there's not really many terms that are confusing. I mean, they're pretty basic terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what kind of terms they mean.
No, it's fine. And it's not always true in every single sport, but I thought I'd give you guys a chance to talk about that if you wanted to. But had a lot of fun with you guys. I enjoyed it. Thank you for being on the show. And obviously, best of luck in the next couple of weeks. Assumption and Dakar, Morgan City, and then the big game, that Holy War against E.D. White, will be the main event for next week. Make sure to go out and support those Terriers, support our baseball team with all of that grit and all of that toughness to go take on those Cardinals.
Amen, brother.
Thank you. So,
Thank you.
for being on the show. I'll see you next time. Let me adjust this a little bit. Thank you to both Brennan and John. Baseball obviously has had a lot of momentum over the past few weeks. I apologize for the slight mismanagement of the last question that I was asking. I was trying to think about how to word it, and it isn't very easy to word. It's just I was talking to Kate last week, and Kate Casio, and it was a lot of fun to discuss that term that she was talking about. And I was just wondering if there was anything like that in baseball that would be interesting to discuss here in a public interview. And apparently there isn't, and that's fine. But I wanted to give them the chance to do that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the review. Still a lot to talk about outside of just baseball. We have tennis. Tennis had a big week. Tennis had the main event from last week. And that main event, of course, was the Holy War against Edie White in tennis. And we went out and we proved our worth. We proved our value. We proved how good of a tennis team we were, both in the boys and in the girls. And the boys, of course, finished only losing those two games, if I recall correctly, those two matches to St. Thomas More. And the girls finishing undefeated. I'll talk about that in just a second, though. First, not to discount the victory beforehand to Morgan City. Those wins both for the boys and the girls. So the girls finished the regular season, went against Morgan City, went against Edie White, and they finished undefeated. I think that's the only team to have done that thus far this season. Maybe you can count girls track doing that as well with their success. I don't think they've finished below first in a meet yet. So you'd say that they're undefeated as well, going into Parish. But huge congratulations to the girls for that undefeated regular season. And, of course, best of luck to them moving into regionals and state in the coming weeks. A couple of announcements, actually, from a winter sport. Soccer. The All-State players got announced for boys, Reedberg and Nick Narlo. I can't pronounce the word. I'm sorry, Nick. Both great players this season. Nick, specifically, his goalie play, as well as Reed's defense play in those games against St. Louis, I remember, as well as the first-round playoff game. Absolutely amazing performances in the playoffs there from both of those guys, as well as the whole team, but two shutouts there from our center back and our goalie. Great performances there, and a great overall season for both of them, the senior Reed and junior Nick. And then for the girls, 3, and then as well as a second team placement. But in first team, Lauren Andre, Katie Haydell, and Catherine Prentice. So all 3 of them, great performance for them. And, excuse me, I'm sorry. And great performance for the overall season for them, and congratulations going into next season, because I don't think any of those girls. No, Catherine's a senior. Catherine might be a senior, but I know both Lauren and Katie are not. They'll be returning next season. So, of course, best of luck to them and their very successful season. Track had a surprisingly good performance. I know at the Thibodeau relays. So the boys didn't have a great performance in throwing events. I was there. There was a half an inch of rain on the shot put ring specifically. Javelin got canceled. Discus didn't have a great, all the numbers were low on the throwing events. But I know outside of that, the boys managed to prevail, had a very good meet. We finished 5th out of, I think it was 12 teams. Finish on the front half of the pack. Great improvement from the last couple of weeks where we did not have very good finishes, both in the Terrier relays and at Central Lafourche. And the girls, of course, won again, got that margin of victory a little bit higher from the week before, this time going into Thibodeau and beating them by about 30 points, scoring 120 on them. Great for the girls. We'll talk about that in the main event for this week, which is Parish. I'll talk about that later, though. Softball, another strong week for this team, sort of mirroring the baseball team. I know both teams, baseball and softball, struggled Yes, Matthew. Girls track is really good. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But yes, Matthew, girls track has been great. So softball. I want to talk about this. This is something I thought about when I was interviewing both Brennan and John. The softball team and the baseball team have almost had mirrored records, mirrored schedules, and how they've gone this season. Both teams struggled in the beginning weeks. I think neither of them got a win in their first 2 weeks. I want to say the boys started off 1-5 and 0-4, and the girls started off like 0-4 or something like that. Both very weak. And then they improved throughout the season, got that experience throughout the season, gelled as a team, got that chemistry, and both are on fire now. The girls had another very strong week. Not quite the same like 11 of 12 wins that the boys do, but I think the girls have had a pretty consistent 3-1 for a week, 3-1 for a week, 3-1 for a week. And so they've probably won like 9 of 12. I would have to go back in the records to see exactly what it is, but still very successful over the past, say, month. And it shows. We began with 3 solid wins, 9-4 against Morgan City, 10-0 in a shutout against Ellender, and 4-2 against Sacred Heart. Those first 2 games clinched a share of the district with Edie White. So I think it was with Edie White at the very least. That was our only loss in district. 5-1 record, of course. That is great news. And, of course, congratulations to the softball team for that district, at least co-district victory. District championship, excuse me. We finished the week with a loss to Second Catholic, 5-1 in a tournament in the second round. But we bounced back with a great win against Catholic New Iberia, 12-9. Very, very strong showing in that tournament, going 2-1. And then, of course, those first 2 games, clinching a share of the district. Very strong district championship performance in the regular season for the girls. And again, I wish them the best of luck going into the next couple of weeks, moving into playoffs. Baseball, actually, there's not really much to talk about. I discussed it all in the interview with Brennan and John. I discussed even the record, even the box scores, even the results. But yeah, the wins against Ellender, Rummel, St. John, and Assumption. Great game against St. John. Classic game against St. John. Great job for the boys. And, of course, those big games in a couple of weeks. We're going to go ahead and move on to the preview, beginning with softball. I'm sort of confused. There are 2 games scheduled on the calendar. They're not playoffs, I'm pretty sure at the very least, but they're also not regular season. I'm kind of confused. First against Thomas Jefferson on Monday. I'll go ahead and talk about this matchup, but I'm not sure if this is actually a thing or not. But either way, against Thomas Jefferson on Monday, very solid, very good team all around. It's going to be a tough matchup. It's probably the most all-around solid team that we theoretically will play all year. Home, they're solid. Away, they're solid. They won by a lot. I think they've doubled up their win differential. Makes sense at 12-5, and their run differential, makes sense at 12-5 as their record. 6-2 at home, 6-3 on the road. Very strong, no matter what they're doing, wherever they're playing. But of course, we know this team has improved immensely throughout the year. Going from that, 0-4, 1-5 record, similar to the baseball team, all the way to this over 500 record we have now. I think we're 8-7. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And we have, this is a winnable game. Every game feels winnable now for the girls, whoever we're playing. So we can just go out there and win. Then we face Catholic High Points. It said on the VCH calendar. I looked this up on Max Preps, and according to Max Preps, this school does not exist. So I don't know. If this is happening, obviously best of luck to them. I don't know, though. It's kind of confusing because playoffs haven't started yet, but they still have regular season games, I guess. That's it for softball. Obviously, best of luck to them going into the playoffs whenever that begins. Golf has a week. Boys travel to Timberlane on Tuesday, and the girls travel to Boyo. I apologize if I butchered that pronunciation on Thursday. Baseball has a few games this week. Again, we talked about them already pretty much. Assumption should be a pretty simple victory. Edna-Carr, a little bit of a stronger team, but still should be a good victory for us. And then Morgan City is a pretty bad team. District record's bad overall, bad. They're like 2-6 in district or 2-4 in district. Not much to say here. Should just be rolling through those games, all 4 of them, and get into the game against Edie White next week. Will be the main event. Huge implications in district playoffs. I'll talk about that more next week. I plan to do a very in-depth review of that game. Preview of that game. And that leads us right to the main event. So, the main event, track parish championships, Wednesday afternoon and night, of course, right after school at Vanderbilt. We're hosting it. Huge meet. This is the second time track is main eventing, and it's for a good reason. This is a huge meet. It's probably the smallest meet of the year, I guess, number of teams, because it's just in the parish. It'll just be schools like us, Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois, Allender, Home Christian, CCA maybe, whoever. But just in the parish. So schools like Thibodaux, who's been very good on all around. Hanville, very strong boys team. Brother Martin, very strong boys team. Different schools like that, they're not going to be there for that meet. Which means, especially the boys who are on the up and up, of course, placing the top half of the Thibodaux Tigers relays, we have a chance to do something. We have a chance to have a great finish. The girls will be the favorites to win. I don't think we're going to have that much competition. But the boys, if we put together a solid performance, we had a good performance overall at Thibodaux. If we put together a performance like that, or maybe it has to be a little bit better, second is completely within our grasp. I don't want to say first is legitimately in our grasp. Maybe I'm being a little too. Maybe I'm being not optimistic enough. But Terrebonne has been great all season. But I mean, who knows? We're getting hot at the right time. We're getting momentum at the right time to potentially put together an amazing parish championship meet. I'll be there. Hopefully everyone here will be there as well. It'll be a big night for the Terriers. Lots at stake. Big chance to have a lot of success. First, second, both would be a great night for the boys and girls overall. And look, we have a chance to have a great job. So, I hope everyone had a good time. I wish the best of luck to all of the athletes throughout this last week and going into this week. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next time, same channel. See ya.